How's it going, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Armchair Analysis here on YouTube. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Thursday. It's June 4th, 2026, and today it's all about the Arkansas Razorbacks 2026 preview, and it's going to be a fun video. This was a team that I really felt like I hadn't looked enough into prior to today, and kind of got a good feel for where things are and going into year one under Ryan Silverfield, of course, coming over from Memphis. A brand new era at Arkansas, and it's gonna have its lumps, I think, and they're gonna take theirs, I think, this year, especially having one of the tougher schedules in the conference, or in the country, let alone. Um, but I feel like there's still a lot of room for this team to kind of have some improvement and be a really solid program in the future and going forward. So excited to talk about this one and get into it. So with that said, let's go ahead and go ahead and talk about this team a little bit. Last year they were 2-10, 0-8 in conference play. They bring in the 46th ranked recruiting class with 25 commitments. They bring in the 33rd ranked portal class with 42 commitments. And it's really no surprise. Look, everybody who had somewhere to go went, and everybody who um, felt like they needed a fresh start kind of found their place at Arkansas. And it's going to be, again, just a year it's interesting. So many young names and youthful faces around this program. There's still some leadership, and certainly should be, with some of the older players who are on this roster. You know, I go and look at this offense. It's going to be Braylon Russell, who, oddly enough, with as little time as he had last year, is going to be one of those guys. Quincy Rhodes for the defense. You know, a guy who comes back returning 8 sacks and almost 16 tackles for loss is a really big opportunity to see what he can bring to the table as well. So, and how he can help be a leader on this team and around all the changes that have gone on at this program. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the portal commitments that they were able to bring in. It starts at quarterback. A.J. Hill comes over from Memphis, followed Ryan Silverfield. Going to be a quarterback battle with him and K.J. Jackson. We'll talk a little more about that here in a minute. Braden Fuller comes over as well from Angelo State. That'll be an interesting add as well as time goes on. He's a senior, probably looking to get into coaching, I would presume, and is likely going to do some grad time there. Had to take a pause. Had a phone call. Had to take. So I don't actually know where I left off. I assume I was talking about Braden Fuller. So moving on, the running back room, Sutton Smith, another Memphis transfer that went with Ryan Silverfield. And then you also got Jasper Parker, who comes over from Michigan, and very excited to see what he's going to look like. He's kind of slated as maybe that number 2 running back. I feel like he has a really good place here, and I'm actually very excited to see what he brings to the table. Got buried in the depth chart at Michigan, and was going to continue to be buried in the depth chart just due to some of the talent coming in over the next couple of years. So he made his move, went to Arkansas. Feel like he's got he's going to have a really good place there. Going to be a kind of, I think he'll turn into a fan favorite for Razorback fans. At wide receiver, they bring over Chris Marshall from Boise State, Jelani Watkins from LSU, Jamari Hawkins from Memphis, and Donovan Falpel comes over as well from New Mexico State. Those were 4 transfers that they brought in. At tight end, they bring in Matt Adcock and Ty Lockwood. Adcock comes over from Memphis, and Lockwood from Boston College was going to get buried in that depth chart. And I feel like we're going to see a good amount of the tight ends in this roster. There's 3 that I think we'll see. We'll talk a little more about it when we get to the lineup. On the offensive line, Bryant Williams comes over from Louisiana. Terrence Roberson Jr. is a name to really look out for. Projected to be a starter from a lot of different places. He comes over from Wachita? Sorry, I'm not sure if I got that right. I'm trying. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's a D2, if I'm not mistaken, school that I feel like has a pretty rich history, and it'll be interesting to watch how he kind of fills into this role. And somebody tell me how to pronounce that school's name. I know Google's a thing, but I'm in the middle of the video. I can't just stop and do everything I need to at the moment. Davion Witherspoon comes over from Ohio, or Weatherspoon, my bad. Davion Witherspoon comes over from Ohio. I have to pronounce that right if I can mispronounce the other things. He was one of the better pass protectors in the MAC, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing where he fills into the depth chart. He's projected as a backup based on some of the things I've seen. I think he might fill in and be a starter at some point. He's that kind of talent, Excited to see what he where he lands in that. And then Malachi Breland from Memphis comes over as well with Ryan Silverfield. On the D line, you got Hunter Osborne coming in from Virginia, Carlin Jones from USC, Jamonte Walker from Auburn, Trayan Odom from Ohio State, and Zadavian Sims from Oregon. Osborne and Jones are the two that I think you'll see starting time. Odom was a bench player last year, a freshman, if I'm not mistaken, last year as well at Ohio State. Might see him a little bit as the year goes on, but it's certainly going to be kind of just let him develop a little bit. At linebacker, Kamori House comes over from North Carolina. That's probably the biggest name you're going to be looking for on this defense. I think he'll be the green dot for the Arkansas defense this year. Phoenix Jackson from Baylor, Ben Bogle from West Virginia, and Steven Souls Jr. From Kentucky. I think that you'll see Souls playing a little bit of what they call the jack position, where he'll be an edge rusher. At defensive back, they bring in Jaheim Johnson from Tulane, Christian Harrison from Cincinnati, who also spent some time at Tennessee. Harrison's a guy that I think is going to fill in really well to this defense. Braden Lee comes over from Maryland along with Lakai Rowland. Shelton Lewis comes in from Clemson, Ian Williams from Memphis, and Carter Stoutmeyer from Colorado. You're going to see him a little bit at safety. Max Gilbert transfers in. He'll be the new kicker this year for the Razorbacks from Tennessee. So with that said, all the early stuff out of the way, let's take a look at this this team's stats from 2025. And look, this was a solid team last year. Now, it's obviously, you can throw this away for the most part. Why can you throw this away? Because the majority of the players are no longer here. This is going to be a brand new roster, a brand new style. This is not going to matter too much. 32.9 points per game last year to 33.8 allowed by the defense. 455 yards per game, 262 through the air, 191 on the ground. The defense allowed 425 a game with 239 through the air and 185 rush yards per game. Turnover margin was just under -1 per game, -1, so one turnover losing in the battle, I guess. 7.8 penalties per game. The team was heavily penalized last year, and certainly did not help some of their chances as the year went on. When you take a look at this roster, it returns 55% of production, and I'm going to show you guys the projected offense here. 55% of production is 56th in college football. The senior class is of 24 players. The majority of them you will see in the starting lineup. 27 juniors, 27 sophomores, and 37 freshmen come in this year for this Arkansas team. It's going to be very interesting to watch because a lot of the older players have significant playing time. We'll talk about them as we kind of get to them. And then there's some other players that you're going to see, like at the quarterback position, who are very youthful, very inexperienced, and it'll be very difficult to see where they're going to be at until we get to the games being played. And it starts at that quarterback position. Look, Tim Cramsey comes over from Memphis with Ryan Silverfield. He's been at Memphis, or been with Ryan Silverfield for the last 4 seasons now. That's why A.J. Hill has a chance here, okay? 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Those were A.J. Hill's stats last year at Memphis. K.J. Jackson, 441 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. I don't know who the quarterback will be or what it will look like for this Arkansas team this fall. I project it'll be K.J. Jackson just from experience. I think the upside is much higher. There's a possibility that A.J. Hill, just knowing the system a little better, may get a leg up. These two guys, there's not like there's a huge experience gap. And there's really not a huge maturity gap, I wouldn't say, between these two players. So when you look at those two things, it begs a lot of curiosity. I think that KJ Jackson will be the starter. That's at least who I'm projecting to be there. But I don't think this battle is going to be over until the spring, or until the fall, sorry, once we start getting closer and closer to that week 1 game. And to be honest, as much as I think they don't want to mess around too much with it, I think they might even be willing to go 2 quarterbacks a little bit and just kind of let both guys get some good and meaningful reps. At the running back position, I think it's Braylon Russell, and then it's everybody else from there. Jasper Parker had 93 yards last year, didn't really see significant playing time. Sutton Smith did, 669 yards and 7 touchdowns. In some way, shape, or form, you will see all 3 of those guys this year. I don't really think it's going to be more a one guy takes all type of situation unless it's Braylon Russell. If it's a three back system, I think that's probably the most successful situation that Arkansas can find in the run game. At wide receiver, Jonathan Falpel comes over from New Mexico State, leads the team in terms of reception yards last year, 661 yards, 7 touchdowns, also leads the team in terms of that experience. Chris Marshall, projected wide receiver 2, 574 yards last year and 2 touchdowns. Jamari Hawkins, 623 yards and 2 touchdowns. Some names that you'll want to keep in mind, Jaylen Brown and C.J. Brown both played significantly last year. C.J. Brown actually was the 3rd leading receiver on this Arkansas team last year. I would expect that he will see a significant amount of playing time. And I'm very excited about Jelani Watkins. I just want to see where he fills into the depth chart a little bit as time goes on, as again this summer of development and conditioning goes through. Once we get to the fall, see how many reps he's getting over the first couple of weeks. A very young player, a sophomore this year. I can see a world where he starts to get filtered into the system just a little bit more as time goes on in the year. Could turn out to be a really good player for the Razorbacks offense. At tight end, it's going to be Jaden Platt. I project that there will be no real competition there. Now, Ty Lockwood, I would say, is probably my second, and then Matt Adcock, but I could see a world where both of those guys kind of compete for that second position as time goes on. But Jaden Platt, 296 yards last year, 2 touchdowns, a significant playmaker for this offense, and can really create some things as time goes on again this year as they get more comfortable in this offense. From left tackle to right tackle, you got Bryant Williams, Malachi Breland, Caden Kittler, Kobe Branham, and Terrence Roberson Jr. Again, I could see a world Davion Weatherspoon projected to fill in as a backup to Malachi Breland, and I could see a world where they battle pretty significantly. I can also see a world where Weatherspoon comes in and takes over a spot from Kobe Branham and plays right guard. It's not a... I don't think it's really a set in stone situation yet on the offensive line. I would say it's probably going to take a while for that to take shape. Moving on to the defense here, it's going to be defensive coordinator Ron Roberts, who comes over from Florida over the last 2 seasons and had not awful luck, really. I think Florida had some bad luck in their own right, and some of it's one of those you make your own luck situations. Other times it just kind of felt like they just couldn't get anything right. I feel like Ron Roberts can come over and actually put together a solid defense, maybe improve that points per game number just a little bit this year. It's going to start with defensive end Quincy Rhodes. I think he is going to be the star of this defense, the guy that everybody is looking for. You're going to be looking for 97 in red. When you look on the other side, it's going to be Charlie Collins. Now, there is, again, world where Steven Souls comes in and plays and is the starter on that other side of the jack position. He was kind of recruited for that position. I would expect him to be there. But no matter who it is, I feel like that's got to be a pretty nice gig to be on the other side of a guy who's certainly getting a lot of attention in Quincy Rhodes. On the interior, defensive tackle, David Oke and Hunter Osborne, 2 guys that you're going to be seeing a lot of this year. Hunter Osborne had a significant amount of playing time, or at least a little more playing time, 15 tackles, 2 for loss, and a sack, versus Oke's 4 tackles and 1 for loss last year at Arkansas. The defensive tackle position is, I don't want to say small or in a sense like inexperienced, but that's kind of the word I would use, is inexperienced more than anything. I don't think they lack depth. I don't think they lack ability. I just think they lack experience. There's not a whole lot of playing time surrounding that position. So if you're looking at a place of weakness, it's right up the middle on the D-line. You look at the linebacker position, I talked about earlier, I think Kamori House is going to wear the green dot. Bradley Shaw will be the mic. Watch out for Ben Bogle. Transferred in from West Virginia, 37 tackles last year, 5 for loss, 3 sacks, a forced fumble last year. Could jump in and be a really great sub linebacker, or even maybe take over one of these positions from one of these guys. He's a senior, got a lot of experience, played really well last year at West Virginia. Moving on to Arkansas, I think he could fit into this system pretty well. The DB room is where I'm probably most excited, and that's because a lot of these guys are ball hawking corners and safeties. It's going to start with Miguel Mitchell, 1 interception last year. Jaheim Johnson started with safeties. Miguel Mitchell, we can talk about the safeties real quick. Miguel Mitchell, 1 interception, 52 tackles last year. Carter Stoutmeyer, 38 tackles with 5 pass breakups and 1 forced fumble. The safety room is experienced. They've definitely got tenure And I think two guys that can really create some big plays both in the run game and in the pass game. It's very rare, at least lately, for Arkansas to have safeties that can do both. And it feels like this is a situation where at least the back end is a little bit more shored up than we've seen in the past. At the cornerback position, Jaheim Johnson and Lakai Rowland, I think these two guys are going to be really solid. Jaheim Johnson had 4 picks last year. Rowland had 3. And then Christian Harrison has the potential to be a serious threat and ball hawking guy himself. 1 interception last year, but 66 tackles, was all over the field for that Cincinnati defense last year. Could see a world where he fills into this role and just excels at the nickel. He is one of my favorite players on this roster, and I'm really excited to see where he kind of goes from here. I think he could be maybe the difference maker in this team when he's able to kind of shut down guys over the middle. You look elsewhere in this position, there's really not, or in these two positions, there's really not a lot of experience beyond the starters. Tyler Scott, Braden Lee, and Shelton Lewis, all 3 combined for 11 tackles apiece at the corner as your top 6. At safety, John House and Ian Williams, the 2 backups there, combined for 19 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack. And the tackle for loss and sack comes from John House. It's just, for Arkansas, beyond the starters, it's inexperience. And I think in the world of the transfer portal, you see a lot of that, especially at this lower level of the P4, teams that have not been able to create the success that they might have liked. And when you're not able to create that success, it's harder to keep players that are at their best because they want to go compete for championships. And it's hard to keep the guys below that because they don't really know what's going on or what could happen, and they leave for better playing opportunities. It just turns into a really tough situation for a team like Arkansas. And when you look at the kicker position, it's Max Gilbert. The punter is Connor Smith. He's a true freshman. Be interesting to watch kind of how he develops and what he ends up looking like over the course of the year. Special teams has always been kind of a specialty for the Arkansas program. So with that said, what does the schedule look like? I mentioned it earlier. It's one of the toughest, and I think maybe the toughest schedule in the country, especially for talent versus a schedule. And I mean, I'm comfortable with that because we all knew that was coming. But this is going to be a really interesting schedule. This is going to be a really interesting year for Arkansas because look, this is difficult. Okay, Utah on the road as a non-con game, Georgia at home as your opening SEC game. You don't get a chance to really feel it out before you go in and play maybe the best team in the conference. And that's certainly not to say they don't play other teams that could be in that conversation. Tulsa will be a nice little break, but then you get Texas A&M, and it is a full bore. I mean, it is knockdown drag out every week until the season ends. Tennessee's not going to be easy. Texas A&M's not going to be easy. Vanderbilt on the road is going to be a tougher one, especially at this point in the year where I feel like no matter who the quarterback is, we're going to be talking about Vanderbilt improving and putting themselves in the conversation again. Missouri's going to be really good, and that's coming off of a bye week, and it's a rivalry game for Arkansas, but that's going to be a tough one. Auburn's going to be probably their most winnable game in conference play, if I'm being honest. I think Auburn's the only game they might be a favorite in, and that game being on the road probably doesn't help. I think them being on the road might make them the underdog. South Carolina is going to be better this year. There is no doubt in my mind that with Kendall Briles at the helm of the offense, that team is going to be a lot better. Texas is going to be a national championship contender. LSU is probably a playoff contender again. It is just difficult. It really is. And the win total speaks for itself at 4.5. The championship odds, both SEC and national championship, are last. Plus 20,000 is dead last in the SEC. Plus 100,000 is tied with a bunch of G4s and other unlikelies. It's just a tough year. It really is. And it's hard to really get a feel for what Ryan Silverfield is going to be from this schedule and this season. When we talk about teams that have it rough, Purdue last year had it rough. I mentioned this in a comment on the Purdue video yesterday. They played one of the toughest schedules in college football. They played some of the best teams in the Big Ten last year, and they did not get a break from start to finish of conference play. Not to mention they also played Notre Dame. That's kind of where Arkansas is this year. Year one under a new head coach, have one of the toughest schedules in the conference, and they have a really tough road trip in non-con play. It's almost the perfect comparison. It's almost perfect that we had these two teams back to back. I talked about Purdue improving. Year 2 will probably be an improvement for Ryan Silverfield, just simply because he'll have had a chance to get things under control a little bit. Things are going to be difficult, okay? And hear me out when I say I don't like what this record prediction is going to be. But it has to happen. It has to happen. Somebody's got to be bad. Somebody's got to be bad, unfortunately, in college football. So with that said, the win over North Alabama gets a good start to the year. They go on the road, and look, this is Morgan Scalley's first real chance as a head coach as well. He's been the head coach in waiting at Utah for a while. Steps up and honestly kept the roster pretty well together and kept some of the coaching staff together a lot better than I thought he would when Kyle Whittingham took the job at Michigan. With that, with the understanding that this is going to be a West Coast-ish start time, Rice-Eccles Stadium's tough to play in. I think I think Arkansas is going to figure that out. Utah gets the win. A 1-1 start to the year. They're going to get them back home, play Georgia. The schedule, Hunter Yurcich has been very vocal about the way the schedule is played out. They'll come back home and essentially have a short rest because of the travel and play a noon game the next Saturday. It's been well documented. And I think they're going to lose the game. I don't think it's going to be because of the rest. I think the talent's not there yet. And so, therefore, Georgia gets the win. It's a 1-2 start. They'll get one back with Tulsa, and then we get into the tough of it, right? On the road against A&M, I think they're going to lose. I don't think they'll be better than that team. I don't think they'll be better coached than that team. Tennessee is a game that I really considered. And if this offense is figured out, if this offense of Arkansas is figured out and the defense can keep them in a game, this is a game they can win. By all means, this is a game they can win. I'm choosing to take Jim Knowles and what I think is an experienced defense coming back, along with experienced players in the Jim Knowles system, trusting in the fact that I think this is going to look a little different for Tennessee, and they can expect better out of their defense. And I'm also projecting a starting quarterback to be named in the video later that's going to help this out too. Tennessee's going to get the win. It's going to be a close game, and it's always wacky. Arkansas and Tennessee play wacky games, especially in Fayetteville. But I think Tennessee gets a close win on the road. Go on the road to Nashville, take on Vanderbilt. I think at this point we're going to kind of figure it out, and I'm assuming it's going to be Jared Curtis as a starter. And if so, at this point, he's going to kind of know the game. And this is, I don't want to say going to look like a down week for him, but it's certainly going to be a break from what they have to face as well this year. I'm going to take Vanderbilt to win that game. Coming out of the bye week facing Missouri, I just think this Missouri team is entirely too talented. I don't think they're quite a playoff contender like they might have been last year. But whether it's Austin Simmons, Matt Zollers, Ahmad Hardy, depending on how healthy he's going to be following everything that's gone on for him this offseason, it's going to be a tough game. I think Missouri's going to get the win. On the road against Auburn, we're going to talk about another game that's winnable. The difference maker in this game is going to be the same difference maker I just talked about against Tennessee. Defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin, is going to be the difference maker. If Auburn is going to win games this year, it's going to come from the defense in a lot of cases. And certainly their offense is going to help them out a good amount, and I think they might have a much better first year than they may expect. I'm going to take, than the rest of the SEC might expect. I'm going to take Auburn to get the win simply based on what their defense should be able to do this year. South Carolina has a really solid defense, and the offense is going to be, I think, electric this year. I don't really see too many ways this team takes steps backwards. So, as a matter of fact, if they take steps backwards, it would be a catastrophic event, and Shane Beamer would be fired by this point, to be completely honest with you. I don't think that's going to happen. I think South Carolina is going to get the win. And at this point, you're closing out the season with two of potentially the best teams in the country, depending upon how LSU develops. At Texas is going to be a loss. At LSU is going to be a loss. Somebody had to be bad this year, and I'm sorry, Arkansas fans, it was you. I don't like doing that. I don't like giving teams horrid records like this, 2-10. I like to be cool with everybody, but I understand. I understand there's going to be some people that don't like me in Fayetteville. It's tough, man. It really is. This is a team and a program that deserves so much better than what they've had the last 10 years. Or, well, really, last 7 or 8 years. Because there was a point in 2015 and 2016 that they were actually decent. This is a program that deserves a lot better, and it's unfortunate the way it's gone down for them. But I feel like there's certainly some possibilities and some reason to be excited for Arkansas football going forward, especially with some of the roster that they have in front of them. The defense is going to be solid. I expect some good things out of Ron Roberts. I'm just curious about this offense and specifically how these quarterbacks come through and develop because they are very inexperienced. And inexperience in the SEC just has not worked out very well for a lot of teams, especially when it comes down to the way this roster is put together. I want it to be good. I really do. I got family ties to Fayetteville and that area, so it does me no joy to be so down. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As I always, you know your team better than I do, so if there's something I'm missing, Arkansas fans, let me know in the comments. We had a great Purdue fan yesterday do that for us in the Purdue video, and I ask that you guys all can do that. Look, this is a place for that. For that sense of community, that sense of yeah, I hear you type of thing. And yeah, I just thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Make sure you stick around. We got preview season. 68 teams in 68 days rolls on. And tomorrow, we've got the Boston College Eagles. I'm excited about that one. Boston College, year number 2, if I'm not mistaken, under Bill O'Brien. So it's going to be a good time for them. Excited to see where that turns. And yeah, with all that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Check us out on social media right there if you haven't already seen it. Check out the Discord. Links in the description for all these things, by the way. The Discord, where we're going to have a lot of stuff going on throughout the course of the season. Game threads, things like that. And then, of course, check us out on Spotify. We've got the Spotify up and running now, and hopefully all these videos are starting to come out and show up now. That problem should be solved. So, thank you all so much. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with another episode of Preview Season here on Armchair Analysis.